A Toronto man has been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of his ex-girlfriend in an underground parking garage in 2022. Friends and family of Daniela Malia reading their victim impact statements in the courtroom today, remembering the 23-year-old as a ray of sunshine, adding that nothing will ever take away their pain. Ali Chiasson has this story.
Daniela Malia's ex-boyfriend, Dylan Dowman, has been officially sentenced to life in prison for her murder. Her family and friends think of him as
a devil. Nobody's safe when he's on the streets.
Enduring the month-long trial, which included video of her pleading for her life before being shot, was unimaginably painful for them.
I feel like I lost her all over again.
Inside the courtroom, Daniela's sister, Tashana, said, quote, "The sentence will not be enough for heartbreak to heal." Dowman sat expressionless in the prisoner's box. She stared him down while saying, "I wish you well," because that's what Daniela would have done. She's channeling her sister in that moment and something she admired most about her.
Strength, to be honest. I was there for my sister.
It took strength to report the escalating threats Dowman had sent Malia 3 days before she was murdered, including a text message that read, "Ain't no coming back from death, you're done." A Toronto police officer was charged with neglect of duty, and another still faces disciplinary action for not taking her complaint seriously.
She was loved. Every one of us, even if you didn't know her, you could love her. And, and she would love you back.
That's what her fellow pet value colleagues all said about her. The pet store has photos of her up on the wall.
Whenever I walk in, it's the first thing I do is I say hello. And then if it's quiet, I talk to her a bit.
As Dylan Dowman begins his life sentence, Daniela Malia's loved ones hope her death isn't in vain and that intimate partner violence calls are taken more seriously. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Jordan O'Brien Tobin, the man who killed a teenager at a TTC subway station nearly 2 years ago, has been sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 18 years. Justice Jane Kelly handing down the sentence today, describing the murder of 16-year-old Gabriel Magalhaes as a self-centered act of violence and a senseless crime. O'Brien Tobin admitted to approaching Magalhaes at Keele Station in March 2023 and stabbing him in the chest in an unprovoked attack. He had pled guilty to second-degree murder, and a life sentence was already guaranteed, but the question of how long he would be ineligible for parole was left up to the judge. Now, she opted for the high end of what the Crown was seeking, which was 16 to 18 years, saying the 22-year-old's lengthy criminal history in both Ontario and his home province of Newfoundland makes him seem likely to re-offend. Well, Doug Ford is returning to the Premier's office. The PC's winning a rare third straight majority government last night. But it's an election where none of the parties fully got what they wanted. Queen's Park reporter Lorena Redicop takes us through it.
Thrilled PC supporters last night, Doug Ford re-elected as Premier. While he gains a third majority, polls projected he'd gain seats. In the end, he won fewer seats than in 2022. And Ford called the snap election, saying he needed a stronger mandate in the face of tariffs, wording it slightly differently last night.
We asked the people for a mandate, a strong mandate that outlives and outlasts the Trump administration. A mandate to do whatever it takes to protect Ontario. Well, friends, the people have spoken.
His team canceled his planned news conference for today. Still, it's a win.
We can argue about the numbers and we can argue about the turnout, etc. But I think at the end of the day, what really matters is that it is a very large majority nonetheless.
And so with his big majority, he could do whatever he wants during the 4 next years.
A much tougher night for the Liberals, though leader Bonnie Crombie's sons put a positive spin on it.
Jonathan and I are here tonight to introduce you all to the next Premier of Ontario.
Liberals did boost their seat count and regained official party status. That means more money and resources. But Crombie failed to win her seat.
I commit to you that I'll stay on as Ontario Liberal leader so that I can keep fighting for you.
But it's unclear how she'll do that. Her campaign says she'll meet with the caucus and executive on Saturday. One Liberal strategist saying this on CBC Radio's Metro Morning.
I think the future is going to be one of introspection. I think the party needs to go back to the drawing table and look at, is it the message? Is it the leader? Is it the team? Bonnie's going to face a really tough road. There's going to be a review of the leadership.
The NDP won more seats than the Liberals, but with way fewer votes. 1.5 million Liberal votes, less than 1 million for the NDP. Still, it returns as official opposition.
In another few years, we are gonna face a rematch. And I'm there for it, my friends.
Not everyone's so positive.
The NDP was very lucky to come out with the number of seats that they did last night. Their vote was very effective, but they did lose popularity. This is a sign that their campaign was not effective.
As for what comes next, according to Premier Ford's spokesperson, the legislature can't return until all the votes are certified. Right now, they're preparing for their part in the tariff war, such as pulling U.S. alcohol from LCBO store shelves, ripping up the contract with Elon Musk's Starlink, and also banning U.S. companies from procurement deals. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Tens of thousands of city workers could go on strike or be locked out in a week's time just ahead of March break. The city manager saying and warning parents that if that happens, all city-run childcare centres and community recreation centres will be shut down. Dale Manukduk has the details.
No wages, no work!
Dozens of city workers rallied throughout the day, informing residents of the work that they do.
Childcare workers, public health nurses, bylaw officers. We issue permits. We make sure that the water that people drink in Toronto is clean. We have public health inspectors. We have inspectors. We have building inspectors. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. We need a whole segment.
They marched outside the Wellesley Community Center, which could shut down along with all other rec and city-operated childcare centers on March 8th unless a new deal with Toronto is struck. The potential shutdown shocking residents who access the site daily.
And it's very difficult to handle her at home because she's not sitting at one place more than 20 minutes.
My community needs a center because we, the elderly or seniors here, we have a lot of problems with isolation.
So she took a lot of swimming lessons here and she loved it. So it would be definitely a problem for a lot of parents.
The city says refunds for March break camps will be issued and that there will be no child care charges in the event of a shutdown. Emergency services like fire, police, and paramedics, homeless shelter services, and waste collection are all unaffected.
Things like delivered by our agencies, the TTC, Toronto Community Housing, are not affected. The very important work of keeping our drinking water safe is not affected. Long-term care homes continue to operate.
The city says long-term care workers are deemed essential and can't strike. The labor dispute is primarily over money, with many of the workers making minimum wage.
We've tabled lots of things in the past, which we've talked to you about, things like proposals that will ensure that we will have 92% of our recreation workers earning above the minimum wage, and in our current agreement, that percentage is only 57%.
I guess my question would be, why not 100%, right? Why should any municipal employee be getting paid minimum wage?
Both the union representing over 27,000 workers and the city say the sides are far apart.
I imagine that all of next week we're going to be at the bargaining table all day and all night if we need to be there, and we'll work right up to the strike deadline. I anticipate we will go beyond the deadline if needed, if a contract is not negotiated before then.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
With Trump's tariffs set to come into effect on Tuesday, Mayor Olivia Chow is reiterating the need to shop local. This coming the same week that she created a team to deal with the economic threat on a local level. Naama Weingarten spoke with business owners about how they're preparing.
We all have a role to play.
A day after assembling a team of business and labor leaders to deal with the looming tariffs, Mayor Olivia Chow spoke at a local pizza shop, making the case for Torontonians to buy local, like the shop owner, who changed his menu to avoid American ingredients.
We have great flour in Ontario, we have great cheese.
Chow still hasn't presented the details of her economic plan.
The draft, it's quite ready. and there were some really excellent suggestions. They have not finished their feedback. The feedback will be continuous.
Trump's 25% tariffs for most Canadian goods are still on the table for Tuesday, with retaliatory tariffs from Canada expected to follow. Businesses like this local fabric shop say they're not feeling reassured.
Talk is easy, you know. We are hoping they can do something for the Canadian businesses.
She says at least 20% of the fabric in this giant store comes from the U.S.
It's going to be very hard for our customers because they're used to low pricing in here, so it's going to be very hard for us to sell.
For some, like this auto repair shop, there's even more uncertainty.
It's going to hit us, no question. With the parts, oil, all lubricants, everything, just about everything comes from there.
And he's not necessarily counting on the city to help either.
She's only a mayor. She, you know, she's not the federal government.
Chow passed her congratulations to Doug Ford, who was re-elected last night, getting the mandate he wanted to combat Trump's economic threats.
I am sure that there is a plan that they will be rolling out. We need to coordinate our plan together with the provincial and the federal government.
Chow says the city will release details of its plan soon, once they have a sense of what the U.S. has in store. That's after the last terror threat was delayed for nearly a month. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
A Toronto coffee shop is fighting back against the threat of U.S. tariffs in their own way, renaming the popular Americano to the Canadiano.
I think it was important to me that even if the cafe were to remain not overtly political space, not a place where I'm necessarily trying to invite a lot of discourse, I wanted to make sure that we were clear on what side of the conflict we were on. I thought it was a nice small gesture that we could make that allowed people to know, hey, this is a cafe that puts Canadians first.
The movement to rename the beverage has gained traction in coffee shops across Canada. Well, Toronto is the place to be for WWE fans this weekend. There are two marquee events, starting with WWE SmackDown tonight at Scotiabank Arena. Then tomorrow night, it's the main event at Rogers Centre with the Elimination Chamber. Greg Ross has a preview.
Wrestling fans have invaded downtown Toronto, here to see their WWE heroes. Who are you most excited about seeing?
Jey Uso.
You?
Tiffany.
And?
Liv Morgan.
They all seem to have their own reasons for wanting to see their favorite wrestlers live and in person. Who are you most excited about seeing this?
Alexa Bliss.
Why Alexa Bliss?
I just met her. I've liked her since she started, and she's been like my dream girl.
So he's got a bit of a crush on her.
Oh, yeah. More than a bit of a crush.
Among the headliners this weekend will be WWE legend Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, making a special guest appearance. John Cena will also be here, taking part in Saturday's Elimination Chamber.
John Cena entering his last chamber match ever.
Cena has announced his retirement, which means this will be his last match in Canada, and one last chance for his biggest fans to see him wrestle here.
I can't predict how I'll feel tomorrow night, but when it happens, I'll probably cry. Not gonna lie.
What are you expecting from John Cena?
I'm expecting him to win the chamber. Hopefully he wins the chamber. It'll be pretty cool.
This man has tickets for both SmackDown tonight and the Elimination Chamber tomorrow. They weren't cheap.
$200 for SmackDown, but like $600 to $700 for Elimination Chamber.
It's going to cost this couple a lot more. In addition to tickets for the two shows, they flew in from Calgary to be here.
And the flight, and then the hotel, and then the parking, and then the food. Yeah, pricey, for sure.
But they say they're happy to pay it because the WWE is a huge part of their life.
We actually got married in a wrestling ring.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
You got married in a wrestling
ring, yeah. We had entrances and everything, our own theme music, yeah.
That kind of devotion from fans is nothing new to Canadian WWE superstar Chelsea Green. She says she sees it every time she wrestles here.
It's one of the most invested crowds. They are there for everything.
She hopes Canadian fans are rewarded for their support this weekend.
I'm just hoping that this leads to possibly a WrestleMania in the future. We haven't seen a WrestleMania since WrestleMania 18 in Toronto. So I think it's time.
WrestleMania is the WWE's marquee event. The last time it was here in Toronto was back in 2002. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. The world is reacting tonight to a meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that can only be described as explosive. The meeting was cut short and Zelensky sent home. He had planned to sign a deal to give the U.S. access to Ukraine's mineral industry, but the visit quickly devolved into a heated exchange with Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance berating the Ukrainian leader. Richard Madden reports from Washington.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that. Remember,
A stunning, unprecedented, and tense exchange inside the Oval Office as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky berated by President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance.
you're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to you
respect to your
far
country.
more than a lot of people said they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting, have
today,
you said thank
even-
you?
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President.
Trump showing no sympathy ahead of an intended signing ceremony guaranteeing Ukraine's security in exchange for billions worth of Ukraine's critical minerals to the U.S. Western allies believe this high-stakes deal could lead to a ceasefire in Ukraine's bloody war against Russia. But the chat quickly went off the rails.
Of course, we want to stop the war,
But
but
you're
I
saying
said,
you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
It doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what
That
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means.
Trump accusing Zelensky of being difficult and greedy.
If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course he has.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Their scheduled press conference was abruptly canceled. Zelensky was reportedly booted from the White House, leaving without a deal and raising more questions if the U.S. will continue supporting Ukraine as its war continues. On his social media platform, Trump accused Zelensky of disrespecting the U.S., but adding he's welcome to return to the White House when he's ready for peace. This shocking confrontation has appalled Western allies, but is being applauded by Trump's base, who view Zelensky as a grifter. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
Closer at home, the Ukrainian community in Toronto is reacting to the aftermath of President Zelensky's meeting with President Trump.
As it is now, obviously, the relations are strained, and Ukraine really has to turn to its other partners, namely Europe, Canada, and other countries that have been supporting it since the beginning.
Another member of the Ukrainian Congress told CBC's As It Happens that she believes the president and vice president were trying to embarrass Zelensky in front of the media. Now, international relations experts say this will likely only play well with a fraction of Trump's most ardent supporters. The Canadian government is also reacting to that meeting in the Oval. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says support for Ukraine is integral.
We know that President Putin has no red lines. And if he has no red lines, it means that then NATO territory is at threat. And if NATO territory is at threat, we are at threat.
Joly added that Russia is paying close attention to the unpredictability of the U.S. and Ukraine relationship and said Canada should keep standing by Ukraine. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau posted on social media in support of Ukraine, but did not comment directly on the meeting. He'll be in London tomorrow, meeting with the British Prime Minister, where Ukraine is expected to dominate those talks. Colette joins us now with a look at the forecast. And Colette, we're seeing this system move through now, and it's also going to get really cold this weekend, right?
Yes, the whole up and down thing is going on, right? So we actually have had this kind of milder air pushing in as we're ending February, but now we're going into March, the first day tomorrow, and the cold air will be plunging in. So let me start off. We'll show you the jet stream, what's going on here. It has changed so much from where it was, at the beginning of the week. So we're getting that trough over the Great Lakes. You see, I've got my arrows in there. That's the Arctic air being allowed to move down. So we're not feeling it yet. The temperature actually has been rising, and we'll continue to see that. And then it starts to plunge through these overnight hours past midnight, and it starts to drop, and it will continue to drop actually through the day on Saturday as well. So some of those winter weather travel advisories still in place, but with the wind setting up for Saturday, a northwesterly flow that we'll get into, and then being strong 30 and then gusting towards 50 or even 60 kilometers an hour, we do get into the snow squall watches. So you can see there in the lee of Lake Huron, up the Bruce Peninsula as well. Even though we've had cold air and we've had more freezing of the lake, so there's less moisture to pull from, still we get some squalls coming on through. So just playing this forward for you. A few flurries could make their way into the city tomorrow, but primarily I think what will happen is that we'll get into a portion of sunshine, which will be nice. So becoming partly cloudy and just kind of dealing with the cold temperatures and dealing with the wind chills. You just have to be dressed accordingly because as we move into Sunday, again, we should have a decent amount of sunshine. The winds will back off, but the temperatures are going to be well below seasonal. So showing you those winds going from the southwest where it pushed temperatures to double digits for Windsor today, but then turning, see the directional arrows turning to the northwest through Saturday, and eventually they get a bit lighter. But look at the wind chills here, these numbers in pink. So overnight, the temperature will fall to -5. Any little bit of moisture left behind will begin mixing then. So any little showers that we've been seeing will turn into light, wet snow again, but not much to it. Feeling like -13, but by tomorrow afternoon, actually colder than tomorrow morning, falling to -8, feeling like -17, and then a cold night Saturday night. So a cold start Sunday. Sunday -5 will be the high. Sunday night, you can read that, but there it is, -10. And then, oh, look what happens. Lo and behold, as we go into next week, the climb the other direction begins.
It's like this roller coaster, right?
So much of our weather pattern is that way.
That's how it goes. Thanks so much, Colette. And that's all the time we have tonight. Thanks for watching. Have a great night, everyone.